Welcome to my channel, USA Battle Zone. Today's story isn't just about war or discipline. It's about courage. It's about standing your ground when the world tells you to kneel. And it's about one woman, a soldier, who changed an entire base with a single act of defiance. So sit back, turn the volume up, because this one will hit you right in the heart. It was 0600 hours at Fort Bragg, North Carolina. The air was heavy with fog, and the morning drills had already begun. Rows of soldiers moved in perfect sync, boots hitting the dirt like thunder. And among them stood Private Sarah Blake. She was smaller than most, quiet, and new to the base. Only 3 months into training, but already known for something the other recruits couldn't quite define. Some called it determination, others called it pride, but one man called it defiance. Colonel Victor Haynes. He was a veteran of 3 wars, a legend to some, a nightmare to others. His commands were law, his word absolute. And to him, discipline wasn't a rule, it was a religion. That morning, as the platoon assembled, something went wrong. Sarah's hair, tucked neatly under her cap, came loose. A single strand brushed her cheek as she adjusted her rifle strap. The colonel noticed, and in that 1 second, everything changed. Colonel Haynes yelling, "Private Blake, front and center." The air froze. Sarah stepped forward, her heart pounding like a drum in her chest. "Yes, sir. Did I give permission to disobey grooming standards?" "No, sir." "Then what is this?" He reached out, and before anyone could react, he grabbed her by the hair, yanking it down so hard her cap fell to the ground. The platoon gasped. The silence that followed was louder than any command. Sarah's eyes watered from the pain, but she didn't flinch. She didn't speak. She just stood there, motionless, her jaw trembling but her gaze locked forward. For a moment, even the colonel looked uncertain. Then, in a cold voice, he said, "Maybe this will teach you respect, Private." He turned to the others. "Let this be a lesson. In this base, discipline is not optional." He released her hair, and the strands fell across her face like broken threads. Sarah bent down, picked up her cap, placed it back on her head, and said quietly, "Permission to speak, sir." The colonel paused. Everyone knew this was a risk. You didn't speak after a reprimand, especially not from him. He stared at her. "Granted." Sarah's voice shook, but her words cut through the air like a blade. "Sir, with respect, I didn't come here to be perfect. I came here to serve. You can grab my hair, you can break my pride, but you will not take away my reason for being here." The platoon stood in shock. The colonel's jaw tightened. "Your reason?" he asked coldly. "And what reason is that, Private?" "To honor my father, sir." The colonel frowned. "Your father?" "Yes, sir. Sergeant Michael Blake, killed in Kandahar, under your command." The words hit like an explosion. Even the wind seemed to stop. The colonel froze. His eyes flickered. Confusion, pain, something buried deep beneath years of steel discipline. He stepped back slightly, staring at her. "I remember that name," he said quietly. He saved 3 of my men." Sarah nodded, tears welling. "And he died waiting for the medevac that never came." "You sent the report yourself, sir." The colonel's face paled. He looked at her, really looked at her, for the first time. The soldiers around them didn't dare move. No one knew what to say. Then Sarah continued, her voice trembling but strong. "My dad told me once, that a soldier isn't someone who follows orders blindly. A soldier is someone who knows when to stand tall, even when the world tries to make you small. So if my hair being out of place means I'm not good enough, then maybe what we need to fix isn't my hair, sir. Maybe it's what we're fighting for." The colonel's lips parted, but no words came out. He just stood there, the fog around them swirling like ghosts from the past. Finally, he turned and said, almost to himself, "Dismissed." Sarah saluted. "Thank you, sir." She turned and walked back to her place in the line. Every pair of eyes followed her. No one dared to speak. But something had shifted, something deep. That night, the colonel didn't sleep. He sat in his quarters, staring at an old photo, a younger version of himself, standing beside Sergeant Michael Blake. 2 men smiling in a desert of dust and death. He remembered the day Blake died. The radio call, the blood, The decision he made to save the rest, knowing it meant one of his best men wouldn't make it back. And now, his daughter stood in front of him, wearing the same uniform, carrying the same fire. The next morning, the entire base gathered for inspection. The colonel stepped forward, his voice calm but heavy. "Before we begin, I have something to say." Every soldier stood at attention. Sarah stood among them, eyes forward. "I've served for 30 years. I've given orders, seen men fall, seen the price of mistakes that can't be undone. But yesterday, I was reminded of something I forgot a long time ago." He turned slowly, his gaze landing on Sarah. "I forgot that behind every uniform, there's a story. Behind every salute, there's a heartbeat. And behind every rule, there must be respect." He stepped closer to her. "Private Blake," he said softly, "I owe you an apology." The base went silent. No one could believe what they were hearing. The colonel, apologizing, he continued, "What I did yesterday was wrong. And it dishonored not just you, but the man who raised you. Your father was a hero. And today, I see, so are you." Sarah's throat tightened. Tears filled her eyes, but she held her stance. "Thank you, sir," she said quietly. The colonel nodded. "From this day forward, this base will remember that discipline is not cruelty. That respect is earned, not demanded. And that courage can come in many forms, even in silence." Weeks passed. Word of what happened spread beyond Fort Bragg. The story made its way through barracks, briefings, even to other commands. Private Blake became a name whispered with respect. But Sarah never sought fame. She kept training, kept working, the same quiet, steady soldier she'd always been. Except now, she had a spark in her eyes. And even the colonel, now a changed man, would stop sometimes during drills, watch her from afar, and nod with quiet pride. One evening, months later, the colonel called Sarah to his office. When she entered, he was standing by the window, holding a small box. "Private Blake," he said, his voice gentle, "I've been holding on to something for a long time. Something I should have given you sooner." He handed her the box. Inside was a silver dog tag, scratched, faded, but still legible. Sergeant M. Blake, her father's tag. Sarah's breath caught. "I thought this was lost," she whispered. The colonel shook his head. "It was found with the gear we recovered. I kept it, to remind myself of the men who gave everything. But now, it belongs where it always should have been." Tears streamed down her face. She clutched the tag to her chest. "Thank you, sir." He smiled softly, a rare sight. "No, Private, thank you, for reminding me what honor looks like." A few weeks later, Colonel Haynes retired from active duty. At his final ceremony, he gave one last speech. "I've fought enemies across oceans. But my greatest battle was right here. In learning to lead with heart, not just authority. If there's one thing I've learned, it's that true strength is found in humility." He looked at the crowd, and his eyes found Sarah. She stood in uniform, saluting him. And for the first time in decades, he saluted back, first. As the years went by, Sarah rose through the ranks. Lieutenant, then captain. She trained others, led missions, and became known for her integrity and compassion. And every time she passed a new recruit struggling to keep up, she'd stop, offer a hand, and say, "Perfection isn't why we're here. Purpose is." But there's one moment, one that still plays in the memory of those who were there that morning. The image of a young soldier, standing tall even as a colonel tried to break her. And the silence that followed when courage spoke louder than command. It became legend, not because of the confrontation, but because of what it revealed. That even in a place built on orders and obedience, the human spirit can still rise, unbroken. Movie camera narrator, softly, with emotion. Sometimes, the battlefield isn't in a foreign land. Sometimes, it's within our own walls. Between what we're told to be, and who we truly are. Private Sarah Blake fought that battle. And won it. Not with bullets or medals. But with truth. Movie camera, music swells. Orchestral strings, slow fade to piano. If this story touched you, if it reminded you that courage isn't just found on the front lines, then honor it, by remembering those who stand their ground when it matters most. This has been USA Battle Zone. And if you believe in stories that show the power of the human spirit, Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Because sometimes, the battles that change the world are the ones fought in silence.